So here I am getting started on the driveway, breaking up the concrete with that Vevor jackhammer that I bought from Amazon that has been really valuable on this project. And I rented a Toro Dingo, which is this mini skid steer loader from the local Herc. Had to bring it on a trailer, but thankfully that wasn't an issue with the SUV that we have. And it was really invaluable in terms of loading concrete. You could lift the bucket above the dumpster and load it in without having to break your back. So really useful tool. I think it's about $500 for the weekend. Well worth it. You can see the dumpster being delivered to the street here. This is from a company called Calsan in Oakland. And the driver was really skilled at what he does. He put it exactly where I wanted it to go. And I'm now scooping up some of the dirt with that Toro Dingo. Just show you moving that machine. Really easy and intuitive to operate. You have different speed settings, so if you want to go really slow, you can certainly do that. You can go backwards. And this one, you don't stand on the back of it, you walk with it essentially. So, again, it's really easy to use. This one uses diesel, and it was pretty economical on the diesel. Didn't have to fill it up once over the weekend. Just kind of taking it slow here. There was a particular area where there was a bit of a bump, and if I took it too fast, the whole thing would sort of rock back and forth and almost topple over. So you do still have to be careful with these things. They are really heavy. And the last thing you want to do is get crushed underneath it somehow. But you can see me lifting the dirt into the dumpster here. This was a mixed concrete and dirt dumpster. They charge different amounts based on what kind of material you're putting in. If it's purely concrete or purely dirt, it's a slightly cheaper price. I did purely dirt for some of the subsequent loads because we had to remove a lot of dirt to put a lot of gravel base. But these dumpsters you can fill to the brim essentially, and they'll put a tarp on top before they take it away. And there's no weight calculation. You can basically fill it to the top. So here I am taking it back for a little bit more. And this was on close to the slowest speed setting. So, once you get good at using this thing, you can be going back and forth very quickly. So you can see it'll fit through this gate really easily. And the other thing is we have a lot of pipes running here, so I don't want anything really heavy that was going to crush those. Even with this, I was a little bit concerned. So I'm just taking it easy here. Steering it around the corner, you can see all the dirt that I've got to get rid of here. And the goal was just to remove a decent amount of dirt to add, at least a couple of inches of gravel base that we could compact. Ideally a little bit more, ideally like 4 inches. And of course with this, because it's not a completely flat pad, you have to think about the elevations and the slopes and make sure that you're cutting away enough to allow for that gravel, but also to allow for enough concrete. So ideally I was looking for at least 4 inches of concrete throughout this driveway. Actually at the apron, it's going to be a bit deeper than that because that's part of the area that takes quite a lot of the force when you drive a car or potentially a truck up that. So I've got another load of dirt here, just bringing that back. And this is one of the full dumpsters being taken away. So these get incredibly heavy. You can imagine with all that dirt in there, that is a very heavy load. But these trucks are designed for it. This guy did a really good job. You can see the top that he put on. to stop any of that flying off on the freeway. I'm not quite sure where they take it, but it's in my spreadsheet in terms of the price for this. I believe it was on the order of $400 or $500. And here you can see some of that gravel, I think it's 3/4 inch gravel base being delivered by Rockery. And then of course we have to spread it out and compact it in lifts of around 1 inch or so. And you can see the plate compactor that we were using there to do a lot of that compaction work, and that was bought from Amazon. I think it was about $450. I sold it at the end of the project for pretty much that, so that was a really good investment. You can see the foam that I put around the foundation. That will just separate the concrete patio from the house. That is best practice to allow that to expand and contract and not damage the concrete foundation. You can see that Christie box for the sewer clean out. And we've got more gravel here to use and a little path that we're creating to the back of the ADU. We've made a little box around that tree. So that's one of the forms that we put together. It's a nice orange tree. And that black pipe there is going to be a drain. So that's obviously too high. That will be cut down to length later on. Again, that's the plate compactor. And this is the little step detail that we made along the ADU at the front. And then coming up the driveway, you can see we put that foam against the foundation. And that's also a level in terms of where the concrete should come up to. So the top of that black foam is kind of our level for the finishers, so they know where to pour it to. So you can see a few more of the Christie boxes there. That one needs to come up a little bit. You can see some of this is a little bit wet. We've purposely wetted the gravel to compact it, give it a bit of lubrication as we compact, and also stop the dust from coming up. And we're coming up to the apron here, so the concrete gets a little bit thicker here. You can see we've still got a bit of gravel to add here. That foam is about 4 inches in width, so that's kind of the amount of concrete that we want to have. Those round markings are for posts that PG&E want for the electrical service, as it's close to a driveway. And this is a little curb that we decided to put in just to separate the driveway from the rest of the garden. And so you can see we're tying into the steps down here, and we've drilled some holes in those steps to have some rebar coming out to sort of connect the two. I'm going to do the same with the apron here to connect the driveway to that concrete on the curb, just so you don't get any settling over time and differences in the level of those two surfaces. So here you can see some of the rebar going in. I had food poisoning around this time, so I didn't take really good videos of that process, but you can see here the finished product ready to pour. So again, Dean from Mr. Nice Guys is the pumper, and Dave Johnson and his crew are out for the finishing. So it's a big crew this time because there's a lot of surface area. I think there's 5 or so finishers. And you can see the rebar mat that we've got here.
I remember that. Yeah.
I think this is 1/2 inch rebar with 2-foot centers. You can see the posts that we put in that PG&E want for the electrical service. All the forms are in place, and that top of the 2x4 denotes the top of the slab. And I had to spend a lot of time like figuring out the slope here. Obviously you don't want it to slope towards the house, because then if it rains you'll get a lot of water going to the house. But there wasn't that much slope to generate, but it does very gently slope towards the back and towards the side. So you can see the back here. Again, more rebar.
It's a long one.
We kind of ran out of rebar towards the end, so there may be a few places where it wasn't quite 2 foot on center, but it's a patio, it doesn't really matter. This part's not going to get the cars. And I decided to put fiber mesh in the mix as well. So we've got rebar and fiber mesh as reinforcement for this 3000 PSI concrete. So these guys are just getting ready. Once they start, it's going to be non-stop. They're just taking off the crawl space door there, just to give them a bit more space for the finishing. One thing I kind of wish I'd done, and partly this is because I had food poisoning, I wish I'd tidied up a little bit more to give these guys space, because when you're finishing, you want to be able to stand towards the side of the concrete at certain parts of that finishing process. So Dean's just bringing another pipe there.
I got video of it.
Eric getting everything ready for the concrete trucks to arrive. So here we go, the concrete truck has arrived, and it's dumping the concrete into the back of the pumper, and the pumper is taking that off around to the back. They decide to start at the back, and they're gonna finish at the front. One thing I kind of wish we'd done was put more dobies under the rebar mat. You know, when I look back at this video, you can see that the rebar is getting stepped on quite a lot. You can see it there, it's almost flat with the ground. And so I'm not sure if that rebar is, in most cases, sitting in the middle of the concrete, which is what you want. So a few more dobies probably would have helped with that. Sometimes people just pull the rebar up when they're pouring, but that seems a little bit more unreliable to me. So the concrete is going in. These guys are just spreading it and screeding it. This is a little time lapse. So you can see, gone back in time a little bit, they've just wetted the ground. That just prevents the ground from soaking up the moisture in the concrete and drying it out prematurely, which can lead to cracking. So, you know, good they did that. Big crew. And these guys, they all knew exactly what to do. I think they'd all worked together before. I think that's really important when you're choosing a finishing crew, having one that you know, has worked before, just know how to divide up the labor. So pretty quick, got all the concrete in for the back patio here. Because this guy's got a slightly difficult job in terms of getting around all that space without putting his feet in it. But they have these tools with the long poles. I think they call that a Fresno. So he's just putting in some snap lines for control joints here. So he's putting in the control joints. So I'm doing this voiceover a year after the concrete was poured, and we're now beginning to see some of the cracks come up in the concrete. Most of them are in the control joints, but not all of them. Thankfully, they're not big cracks. You know, you've got the rebar there, hopefully providing some stability, so you're not going to see big cracks open up. And it is expected to see cracks in concrete. That is one of the certainties with concrete. So these guys just troweling the finish. You can see they've taken the form off the step there to get a nice finish on the sides of that step. Working their way backwards, and I'd say they did a really good job here. Later on they come in and do a broom finish to this, but in general I was very happy with the end result here. So still working those surfaces. There's a broom finish. He's got the big broom there. And that just provides a bit of a grippier finish. It's got a small broom there to finish off the step. And just using some lumber to get out of there without damaging the finish. Just going over the section with the broom. And that is pretty much the rear part of the patio done. So they are now working on the driveway. So now they're beginning to work on the driveway. I think we've probably got another concrete truck here. This could be the second one. And they are just filling it up. And screeding off using that foam, the top of the foam as a level. It's kind of the level that I set. So the water will very gently drain from that right side up against the house towards the left. And also down the driveway, which is where we have some drains that will connect to a sump basin and then sump pump. So at this point, they are just finishing off the driveway and the apron. You can see they've taken the form off that little curb up against the garden there on the right. And they put in some control joints. They've put in that little border, sort of picture frame border, which makes it look, I think, a lot better than it would have done if it was just plain. Here are some finished product photos. You can see the patio here. This is probably a couple days after. Those lines are where I dragged a plate compactor on its wheels along the driveway to sell to someone. Maybe could have waited a couple days, but frankly, it's not visible anymore. So then we were going on some of the landscaping here. So we replaced the sod, we took up the old sod, we put some new topsoil down, and here you can see us laying the sod here. This was from Bee Green. Pretty easy. Of course, as with most things, it's all in the preparation, so making sure that the layer underneath is flat and is watered, is relatively aerated, it's not really hard and compacted, and there you can see the end result.